I do not have to spell out to you the importance of elections to national governance and nation building. You already know that. Every 4 years, every Fijian who is 18 years old or older has the unique opportunity to have a say on who will govern us for the next 4 years. That means every single person in this room has a right to determine your next government. In the context of USP, we are talking about over 10,000 votes. And every single vote matters. Every single one of that 10,000 matters. The question is, will you exercise that right? And how will you exercise it? Voter turnout is a crucial indicator of the level of citizens' interest and participation in political processes. In Fiji, the voter turnout in 2014 was 84.6% of registered voters. In 2018, this fell to 72.5%. I was asked to speak on the importance of women's participation in political processes and the role of young people in nation building in the context of elections. The voter turnout survey, which was carried out after the 2018 elections, found that its age group, 21 to 30 years old, constituted the highest percentage of registered voters for any age group, 21 to 30. Could you put your hand up if you're in that age group in this room? Yes. Interestingly, this is also the highest age cohort for USP students right now. For voters under the age of 80 years, 80, it was also this age group, 21 to 30, that recorded the lowest voter turnout in 2018. The second lowest voter turnout was attributed to the 18 to 20-year-old cluster. Bad weather and tertiary students who couldn't change their polling venue prior to elections were the main reasons cited in the report for the decreased turnout. The survey did not look into the reasons why, but the possibility of a lack of interest in the political process was also identified in the report. If we are not interested in the political processes of our nation, if we do not care of who our leaders are going to be for the next 4 years, then we may have already failed in our first task of nation building, voting at the polls. It's also very interesting to note that it is usually these age groups at this time that are very vocal on social media, very opinionated on politics. That's great, but all that doesn't matter if you don't exercise your right to vote. On the participation of women in political processes, the numbers from the last elections tell us that more women than men voted, even though more men were registered as voters in the country. More women voted in the last elections. So participating at elections is not an issue for women. The issue really is representation in parliament. When we talk about women in leadership, we look to the representation of women in our national parliaments as a key indicator of how we are performing as a nation. Women's parliamentary representation in the Pacific region has been historically low. After the 2018 elections, the Fijian parliament was constituted by around 21% of women parliamentarians. This is the highest percentage of female representation we have in the region, according to IPU, outside of Australia and New Zealand, of course. The reality for us in the Pacific is that national leadership and politics is still very much a male-dominated field. In the 2018 elections here in Fiji, 23.8% of total candidates standing for elections were women. Out of the 6 parties that contested, only one of them had more than 50% of female candidates. The leader for that party was a woman. That party did not meet the threshold, so didn't make it into parliament. For the 3 parties that made it into parliament, 2 of the parties had 19.6% female candidates, and the third had 13%. So even at candidacy level, we're not meeting, at the very least, the 30% threshold. That to me rests on 2 things. One, the political will of the party, through its leader, to amplify women's voices in his party. Yes, his party, because for these elections we don't have a female leader of a party. The second factor is the willingness of women to put their hands up to stand for elections.